The massive alien ships dropped out of hyperspace like falling stars, their hulls gleaming silver against the black of space. Admiral Veltaro stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small blue planet grow larger on his screen. Earth, the third planet from a yellow star, home to the humans who had been making noise in their little corner of the galaxy. "Sir, we are receiving multiple signals from the planet," his communications officer reported. "They appear to be music broadcasts and entertainment signals." Veltaros frowned. Most species went silent when the Confederation fleet arrived. They shut down all communications and waited in terror. But these humans were still broadcasting their silly songs and moving pictures as if nothing had happened. "Perhaps they have not detected us yet," suggested his tactical officer. "Impossible. Our ships are large enough to block out their sun. Send the standard ultimatum." On Earth, Admiral Daewon Kim was drinking his morning coffee when the alien message appeared on every screen, every phone, and every communication device on the planet. The blue-skinned alien leader spoke in perfect English, his voice cold and formal. "People of Earth, I am Admiral Veltaros of the Galactic Confederation. Your species has been judged unfit for continued existence. You have 72 hours to surrender completely or face total destruction. Prepare your leaders for transport to our ships, where they will sign documents of surrender. Resistance is futile. This message will not be repeated." Daewon set down his coffee cup and smiled. Around the world, similar smiles appeared on millions of human faces. Dr. Hee-Jin Park was in her laboratory when the message played. She had been studying alien languages for 30 years, ever since humans first detected the Confederation signals. She knew this day would come. She had been preparing for it. "Finally," she said to her assistant, "tell the President I will be ready for the response broadcast in 1 hour." Captain Minho Lee was on the bridge of the Earth battleship Indomitable when the ultimatum came through. His crew turned to look at him, waiting for orders. Minho had trained for this moment his entire career. Every war game, every simulation, every training exercise had been building to this. "All hands, this is the captain," he announced over the ship's communication system. "The aliens have just declared war on Earth, battle stations, and remember what we practiced." Across the planet, air raid sirens began to wail. But instead of sending people running for shelter, the sirens were playing a tune, an old human song about not backing down from a fight. Children in schools began singing along. Workers in factories stopped their machines and cheered. Farmers put down their tools and reached for weapons they had kept hidden for decades. Admiral Veltaros watched the human response with growing confusion. His intelligence officers had studied this species for months. Humans were supposed to be emotional and frightened. They were supposed to panic when faced with superior force. They were supposed to beg for mercy. Instead, every human news broadcast he monitored showed celebrations, humans dancing in the streets, humans raising glasses of alcohol in toasts, humans embracing each other with joy, not fear. "Sir," his intelligence officer said, voice shaking slightly, "we are detecting massive power increases across the planet. Their orbital defense platforms are coming online." "Defense platforms?" Veltaros asked. "Our scouts reported no significant military installations. The structures we identified as communication satellites and research stations appear to be something else entirely." On the screens, Earth's orbital ring began to glow. Hundreds of structures that had looked like peaceful research stations suddenly bristled with weapon arrays. Energy shields flickered to life around the planet like a protective bubble. Veltaros felt the first touch of unease. "How long have those been there?" According to our records, sir, some of them have been in place for over 50 years. 50 years. The humans had been building defenses for 50 years, disguising them as civilian structures. Veltaros had conquered 47 worlds for the Confederation. He had never seen anything like this. Down on Earth, President Cheung-shin stood in the war room beneath the capital city. The room had been built in secret, designed to coordinate a global defense that the aliens never suspected existed. Around her, military leaders from every nation worked together as if they had been preparing for this moment their entire lives. Because they had been. "Admiral Kim," she said into her communication device, "are our forces ready?" "Yes, Madam President. All orbital platforms are powered and armed. All ground forces are in position. All civilian populations have been moved to secure locations." Secure. Locations? President Shin smiled. "You mean the cities?" "Yes, ma'am. The cities." What the aliens did not know was that every human city on Earth had been designed as a fortress. The tall buildings were not just places to live and work. They were designed to channel attacking forces into killing zones. The underground tunnels were not just for transportation. They were designed to move defenders and supplies without being seen from above. Even the parks and gardens had been planned. Every tree, every hill, every pond was positioned to provide cover for human soldiers and obstacles for invading armies. Dr. Hyejin Park stood before the cameras in the Global Broadcast Center. She had spent 30 years learning everything she could about the Galactic Confederation. She knew their language, their culture, their military tactics, and most importantly, their psychology. "People of Earth," she said, speaking in perfect Confederation standard, "today we make history. Today we show the galaxy who we really are." The broadcast went out on every frequency, in every language spoken by every species in the Confederation. Humans around the world watched their message being sent to the stars. To the Galactic Confederation fleet currently positioned at the edge of our solar system, Dr. Park continued, "We have received your ultimatum. We have considered your terms carefully." She paused and smiled the same smile that millions of humans were wearing. "We decline. Furthermore, we accept your declaration of war. We have been waiting for this opportunity for quite some time. We hope you have brought enough ships." Admiral Veltaros stared at the screen in disbelief. The human female was speaking his language perfectly, with no translator needed. She understood every word she was saying, and she was saying it with obvious pleasure. "Impossible," he whispered. "How do they know our language?" His communications officer looked up from his station, face pale. "Sir, we are receiving thousands of additional transmissions from the planet, all in perfect Confederation standard. They are singing, sir." "Singing?" "War songs, sir, in our language, about us." The songs were indeed about the Confederation, but they were not songs of fear or surrender. They were songs that spoke of ancient human battles, of enemies who had underestimated humanity, and of what had happened to those enemies. One song, broadcast from a school full of human children, was particularly disturbing. It was sung in the style of a traditional Confederation victory chant, but the words were about human soldiers coming in the night, human ships hiding in asteroid fields, and human weapons that looked like tools of peace. Captain Minho Lee stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as it moved into position with the rest of Earth's battle fleet. The ships looked old and primitive compared to the sleek Confederation vessels. But looks, as the aliens were about to learn, could be very deceiving. Captain, his weapons officer reported, all systems are green. The packages are ready for delivery. Excellent. Signal the fleet, defensive positions, and remember we want them to get close. Sir, you want them to attack us? Minho smiled. Lieutenant Ji-yeon, we have been preparing for this fight for 50 years. Every simulation, every war game, every training exercise has been building to this moment. The aliens think we are primitive and weak. Let them keep thinking that for a little while longer. Yes, sir. How long do we wait? Until they make the first move. We want the entire galaxy to see that they attacked us first. We want everyone to know that we tried to be peaceful. The Confederation fleet moved closer. To Earth, their weapons charging, their shields raised. They expected the human ships to retreat or surrender. Instead, the human fleet spread out in what looked like a confused and disorganized pattern. Admiral Veltaros felt more confident. These humans might have managed to build some defenses, but they clearly did not understand proper military formation. Their ships were scattered across the solar system with no apparent plan or coordination. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the human fleet is in complete disarray. They appear to be panicking. Good. Begin the attack. Target their orbital platforms first, then their ships. Leave the planet for last. I want them to watch their defenses fall before we destroy their world. But as the Confederation ships moved into attack formation, something strange happened. The scattered human ships suddenly snapped into perfect position, creating a web of crossfire that covered every approach to Earth. The chaotic positioning had been deliberate, designed to lure the aliens into a trap. And in the command centers of every human ship, officers were smiling the same smile their species had been wearing since the ultimatum arrived. The smile of predators who had been waiting patiently for their prey to come within striking distance. Director Ji-won Choi walked through the halls of the Deep Space Intelligence Facility, located 3 kilometers beneath the mountains of Korea. The facility had been built in complete secrecy over 30 years ago, designed to look like a simple mining operation from above. Even the workers who built it thought they were constructing an underground research laboratory. They were not entirely wrong. Show me the timeline, Director Choi said to her assistant as they entered the main operations center. The room was filled with screens showing star maps, alien ship movements, and intercepted communications from across the galaxy. Yes, ma'am. Beginning playback now. The main screen lit up with a recording from 53 years ago. A young human, radio operator, sat at his equipment, frowning at the strange signals coming through his headphones. He was the first human to detect alien communications, though he did not know it at the time. I kept hearing these weird patterns, the recording played. Not natural space noise, too organized, too intelligent. Director Choi had been a child when that first signal was detected. She had grown up in a world that knew aliens existed, but pretended they did not. The world's governments had made a decision that day to keep the discovery secret while they learned everything they could about their galactic neighbors. Fast forward to the Confederation's first probe, she instructed. The screen changed to show grainy footage of a small alien vessel observing Earth from the edge of the solar system. The probe had stayed for 3 months, recording everything it could about human civilization. What it did not know was that humans were recording it right back. General Sun-ho Kang entered the operations center, still wearing his dress uniform from the morning's defense briefing. He had spent 40 years studying alien military tactics, learning from every intercepted communication and every observed fleet movement. Director Choi, the President wants to know if we are ready to share our files with the military commanders. All files are prepared, General. 50 years of intelligence, organized and analyzed. Every alien species in the Confederation, their strengths, their weaknesses, their fears. Their fears? Director Choi smiled. Oh yes, General. They are very afraid of many things, but mostly they are afraid of chaos. They cannot understand how any species can function without perfect order and complete predictability. On the screens around them, intercepted alien communications played in dozens of languages. Human linguists had spent decades learning to understand every word. But more importantly, they had learned to understand what the aliens were not saying. "Show him the psychological profiles," Director Choi said. A new screen activated, showing detailed analysis of Confederation species behavior. The Velkari, who looked like blue-skinned humans, were actually a species that avoided conflict at all costs. They only fought when they were absolutely certain they would win quickly and easily. The Threnodi were insect-like creatures who thought in terms of hive behavior. They could not understand how humans could coordinate without a central controlling mind. The Zakari were energy beings who considered physical combat to be primitive and distasteful. They preferred to win through technology and overwhelming force. Every species in the Confederation shares one important trait, Director Choi explained. They all achieved peace on their home worlds before they developed space travel. They never learned to fight real wars. General Kang studied the profiles with interest. And humans? Humans perfected warfare before we perfected peace. We spent thousands of years learning to fight each other. We studied every possible way to kill, to defend, to attack, to survive. And then we turned all that knowledge toward protecting ourselves from external threats. Commander Yareem's song appeared on one of the communication screens. She was calling in from a hidden base on the moon where she commanded Earth's Special Operations Forces. Her teams had been infiltrating Confederation space for 20 years, gathering intelligence and preparing for this day. "Director, General, we have confirmation. The Confederation fleet is using Standard Battle Formation 7, exactly as predicted." "Excellent, Commander. Are your teams in position?" "All teams are ready. We have assets near every major confederation. Base within 50 light years. When this war begins, we will not be fighting defensively." General Kang had spent his career studying human military history. Every battle, every war, every conflict that humans had ever fought. He had learned from Alexander the Great, from Sun Tzu, from Napoleon, from every military genius humanity had ever produced. But he had also learned from every military failure, every defeat, every mistake, every tactical error that had ever cost human lives. The aliens studied their victories. Humans studied their failures and made sure they never repeated them. "Show me the weapon analysis," he requested. New screens activated, displaying detailed examinations of Confederation military technology. Every weapon, every shield, every piece of equipment had been studied and tested in secret. Humans had built copies, improved upon them, and developed countermeasures. Their plasma cannons are impressive but predictable, the analysis showed. Energy output follows standard curves. Charging time is consistent across all observed models. Effective range is limited by power requirements. Their shields are powerful but inflexible. They stop energy weapons effectively, but struggle with kinetic projectiles. They cannot adapt to new attack patterns quickly. Their armor is strong but uniform. No species-specific variations. No adaptation to different combat environments. Director. Choi had seen this analysis hundreds of times, but it still amazed her. The aliens had developed their technology to fight other aliens, all of whom used similar tactics and weapons. They had never faced an enemy that fought differently. "And our weapons?" General Kang asked. designed to look primitive while being incredibly advanced. Every human weapon system has been built to exploit specific Confederation weaknesses. The screens showed human military equipment that looked crude and old-fashioned compared to the sleek alien technology, but appearances were deliberately deceiving. Inside the rough metal casings were systems that were decades ahead of anything the Confederation possessed. "The aliens expect us to fight like they do," Director Choi explained. "Stand in formation, exchange fire at long range, surrender when we take too much damage. They have never encountered an enemy that uses deception, misdirection, and asymmetric warfare." Commander Song's image appeared again. "Director, we are receiving reports from our deep cover assets. The Confederation military is confused by Earth's response to their ultimatum." "Confused how?" "They expected panic and chaos. Instead, they are seeing organized preparation and what their analysts are calling inappropriate emotional responses. They cannot understand why humans are celebrating." General Kang laughed. "They think celebration means we are not taking them seriously." "Exactly, General. They have no cultural reference for a species that enjoys the challenge of warfare. In their experience, rational beings avoid fighting whenever possible. They do not understand that humans see this as the ultimate test," Director Choi added. 50 years of preparation finally put to use. The greatest challenge our species has ever faced." On the main screen, a new image appeared. It was a recording from Admiral Veltaros's flagship, intercepted by human listening posts. The alien commander was meeting with his senior officers, trying to understand Earth's response. "The humans are either completely insane or much more dangerous than we believed," Veltaros was saying. "Continue monitoring their communications. I want to understand what we are really facing." What Admiral Veltaros did not know was that every communication his fleet sent was being intercepted, decoded, and analyzed within minutes. The humans were not just listening to Confederation military channels. They were listening to personal communications, supply requests, medical reports, and entertainment broadcasts. "We know more about the Confederation fleet than Admiral Veltaros does," Commander Song reported. "We know which ships need maintenance, which crews are homesick, which officers disagree with the invasion plan. And they know nothing about us," General Kong observed. "Not nothing," Director Choi corrected. "They know what we want them to know. Every piece of intelligence they have gathered about Earth has been carefully provided by us. Every secret, military installation they have observed was designed to be observed. The truth was that Earth's real military capabilities were completely hidden from alien observation. The facilities the Confederation had detected were decoys, designed to look impressive but primitive. Meanwhile, the planet's actual defenses were built into every mountain, every ocean floor, every city foundation. The orbital platforms they can see are just the visible layer," Director Choi continued. "The real weapons are hidden inside asteroids, disguised as space debris, built into the structure of the space stations they think are civilian research facilities." General Kang studied the displays showing Earth's true defensive capabilities. Weapons that could strike targets anywhere in the solar system. Shields that could protect entire continents. Detection systems that could track a single ship from 100 light-years away. "When the attack begins, how long do you estimate before they realize their mistake?" he asked. Director Choi considered the question carefully. "Based on their psychological profiles and observed behavior patterns, I estimate they will recognize the true situation within the first hour of combat. But by then, it will be too late to retreat." "Too late because we will have destroyed their fleet?" "No, General. Too late because they will have learned the most important thing about humanity. which is that we do not fight wars to win territory or resources or political advantage. We fight wars to learn how to fight the next war better. And we have been very eager to learn what the Confederation can teach us. Commander Song's voice came through the speakers again. All stations report ready. The aliens are beginning their attack approach. Phase 1 of the response plan is now active. Director Choi looked at the screens showing the approaching Confederation fleet. Thousands of alien ships, armed with weapons that could destroy planets, crewed by beings who thought they were about to conquer another primitive world. They had no idea they were about to become humanity's most important teachers. The first plasma bolt from the Confederation fleet struck Earth's outer defense grid at exactly 1432 Universal Time. Admiral Veltaros watched from his command ship as the brilliant energy beam hit what appeared to be a simple communication satellite. The satellite absorbed the blast and fired back. "Impossible," Veltaros whispered as he watched the return fire punch through his cruiser's shields like they were made of paper. "How much power does that thing have?" His tactical officer was frantically checking his instruments. "Sir, the power reading is... It cannot be correct. That satellite is generating more energy than our entire fleet." What Admiral Veltaros did not know was that the satellite was actually the visible tip of a massive power collection system built into 3 asteroids and powered by a miniature fusion reactor. It was one of 50 such weapons hidden throughout the solar system. Colonel Tae-hyun Park stood in the command center beneath Seoul, watching the battle displays with satisfaction. Above his head, the city looked normal to any observer. People went about their daily business, traffic moved through the streets, children played in the parks, but Colonel Park knew the truth. Every building in Seoul was a fortress. Every street was a carefully designed kill zone. Every park contained hidden weapon emplacements. The city was not just defended, it was a weapon itself. "Sir, the aliens are beginning their landing approach," his communications officer reported. "Excellent. Signal all units. Phase 2 begins now. Let them land wherever they want." Captain So-Young-han was in the cockpit of her fighter, hidden inside what looked like a broken piece of space debris floating near Earth's moon. Her squadron was spread throughout the solar system, each pilot concealed inside fake asteroids, dead satellites, or other pieces of seemingly harmless junk. "Lightning Squadron. This is Lightning 1. She spoke into her radio. "Enemy fighters, approaching Sector 7. Wait for my signal." Through her cockpit window, she could see the sleek Confederation fighter ships moving in perfect formation toward Earth. They flew in neat lines, maintaining precise distances from each other, following their training manual exactly, So-Young smiled. Human pilots had studied those manuals for 20 years. Lightning Squadron, break formation and engage. Remember, make it look difficult. The human fighters burst from their hiding places like angry hornets. But instead of engaging in a traditional dogfight, they used tactics the aliens had never seen before. They hid behind asteroids, used the gravity of planets to change direction suddenly, and worked together in constantly shifting groups. Most importantly, they made every shot count. While Confederation pilots fired energy bolts in wide spreads, hoping to hit their targets through volume of fire, human pilots aimed with deadly precision. Every plasma beam, every missile, every kinetic round hit exactly where it was intended. Sergeant Jin-Ho Nam crouched in his position inside a Seoul apartment building, watching through his scope as the first Confederation dropships descended toward the city. The aliens had chosen to land in the business district, probably thinking the tall buildings would provide good landing zones. They had no idea that every building was designed to become a vertical maze filled with traps. Squad Alpha, This is Nam. I count 20 enemy dropships landing in Sector 4. All units, remember the plan. Let them get comfortable first. The alien soldiers deployed from their ships with military precision. They formed defensive perimeters, established communication links, and began advancing through the streets in standard urban warfare formations. Everything they did was exactly what the humans had expected them to do. Sergeant Nam watched through his scope as a squad of blue-skinned Velkari soldiers moved down the street below him. They stayed close to the buildings for cover, communicated through hand signals, and checked every corner before advancing. Perfect textbook tactics. Exactly the kind of predictable behavior that human urban planners had designed the city to exploit. "Wait for it," Nam whispered into his radio. "Let them get to the intersection." The alien squad reached the crossroads and paused, exactly as expected. The squad leader pointed his weapon down each street, checking for threats. He saw empty roads, quiet buildings, no sign of human defenders. He could not see the fiber optic cables that had been tracking his squad since they landed. He could not see the motion sensors built into every building wall. He could not see the automated weapon systems hidden in storm drains and subway tunnels. "Now," Sergeant Nam said. Every building around the intersection suddenly came alive. Windows that had looked empty revealed hidden gun positions. Rooftops that had appeared clear sprouted missile launchers. Even the street itself opened up as hidden panels revealed defensive positions. But the aliens were not killed immediately. That would have been too quick, too clean. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a maze where every escape route led to another trap. Every safe position became a target, and every tactical advantage turned into a disadvantage. The city was not trying to kill the invaders quickly. It was trying to teach them that nowhere was safe, nothing was as it appeared, and every step forward would cost them more than they could afford to lose. Back in space, Captain So-Young-Han was leading her squadron in what looked like a desperate fight against overwhelming odds. Her fighters darted between asteroids, appearing to barely escape destruction with each enemy attack. "Lightning 4, where are you?" she called into her radio, making her voice sound panicked. "Taking heavy damage, Lightning 1. I do not think I can make it back to base." The Confederation pilots heard the human communications and pressed their attack. They believed they were winning, that the primitive human fighters were on the verge of defeat. They did not realize that every damaged human fighter was leading them deeper into a carefully prepared trap. "Lightning Squadron, execute mousetrap. Protocol," So-Young said, dropping the false panic from her voice. Suddenly, the asteroids around the Confederation fighters came alive. What had looked like empty rocks revealed themselves to be camouflaged weapons platforms. The debris field the aliens had been chasing the humans through was actually a three-dimensional maze of hidden guns. But even more shocking to the alien pilots was what happened next. The human fighters they thought they had been defeating suddenly stopped running and turned to attack with deadly coordination. "Impossible," the Confederation squadron leader transmitted. "They were damaged. Their engines were failing." "Negative," Captain So-Young replied on the alien frequency, speaking perfect Velkari. "We were teaching you to follow us where we wanted you to go. Thank you for the lesson in your tactics. We will use them well." Admiral Veltaros watched the battle reports with growing horror. His ground forces were not being defeated in the traditional sense. They were not being overrun or destroyed by superior firepower. Instead, they were being dissected. Every squad that landed found itself isolated from the others. Every attempt to establish a forward base failed as the humans seemed to know exactly where the aliens would go and what they would do. Every tactical advantage the Confederation forces tried to create was somehow turned against them. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from Ground Commander Zethlos," his communications officer reported. "Put him through." The image of a tall, insect-like Threnody appeared on the screen. Commander Zethlos had led successful planetary invasions for 20 years. He had never failed to conquer a world within the first day of landing. "Admiral, I must report that our situation is unusual," the ground commander said, his mandibles clicking with stress. "Explain. The humans are not fighting us in any recognizable pattern. They do not defend positions. They do not form battle lines. They do not seem to have any central command structure. Instead, they appear to be treating this as some kind of learning exercise." "Learning exercise?" "Yes, sir. They attack us with one tactic until we develop a counter. Then they immediately switch to a completely different approach. It is as if they are testing our responses to determine our capabilities and limitations." Admiral Veltaros felt a chill run through his blue-skinned body. "Are you saying they are experimenting on us?" "Sir, I have been monitoring human communications. They are laughing. They are actually enjoying this combat. And they keep saying things like interesting response, and try this next, and let us see how they handle this one." In his command center beneath Seoul, Colonel Taehyun Park was indeed enjoying himself. For 30 years he had studied alien military doctrine, wondering how it would perform against human adaptive tactics. Now he was finding out. "Enemy squad in Sector 12 is using standard suppression fire patterns," one of his officers reported. "How should we respond?" "Let them pin down Team 7 for a few minutes. I want to see if they can maintain that pattern under stress. Then have Team 3 hit them from an unexpected angle." "Yes, sir. Should we eliminate them?" "Not yet. First, let us see how they adapt when their communications are jammed. Then we will see how they function when their supply lines are cut. We have a lot to learn from these aliens before we finish them." On the main display, Colonel Park could see the real-time positions of every alien soldier in his city. His tracking systems were so advanced that he could monitor individual heart rates, stress levels, and ammunition supplies. "Sir, the aliens in Sector 8 appear to be getting suspicious. They have stopped advancing and are requesting reinforcements." "Good. They are learning to be cautious. Signal the teams in that area to pull back and let them think they are winning. We want them to feel confident enough to push deeper into the city." "How deep, sir?" Colonel Park looked at the tactical display showing Seoul's underground tunnel system. Miles of hidden passages, weapon storage areas, and bomb shelters that could become bunkers or traps depending on the situation. "Let them reach the city center. I want them to think they have taken our capital. Then we will show them what the city center really is." Captain So-Young Han was back at her hidden base, refueling and rearming her fighter. Her squadron had successfully completed 3 separate defeats of Confederation fighter groups, each time learning something new about alien tactics and technology. "Lightning Leader, this is Command. Are you ready for Phase 3? So-Young looked out at the space around Earth, where the Confederation fleet was regrouping after their first unsuccessful attack. The alien ships had pulled back to what they best thought was a safe distance, trying to understand what had gone wrong with their standard conquest plan. "Roger, Command. Lightning Squadron is ready to show the aliens what happens when humans stop playing defense." She climbed back into her cockpit and powered up her fighter's systems. Around her, dozens of other human pilots were doing the same. But this time, they would not be hiding inside fake debris or pretending to be damaged. This time, they would show the Confederation what human fighters could really do when they stopped holding back. All squadrons, This is Lightning 1. Time for the aliens to learn why humans smile when someone declares war on us. Admiral Nyan Yoon stood on the bridge of the human battleship Defiant, watching as her fleet emerged from hyperspace behind the Confederation supply convoy. The alien ships were moving slowly through space, carrying food, fuel, and ammunition. To the fleet attacking Earth, they had no idea they were being hunted. "Admiral, all ships report ready," her tactical officer announced. "The convoy has 12 cargo ships and 4 escort vessels." "Excellent. Signal the fleet. Execute Plan Midnight." The human ships did not attack immediately. Instead, they spread out and began following the convoy at a distance, staying just outside the range of the alien sensors. To the Confederation. Crews, space appeared empty and peaceful. But Admiral Yoon was not interested in destroying the convoy quickly. She wanted to learn how Confederation logistics worked, how their escort protocols functioned, and most importantly, how they would react when they realized they were being stalked. Begin Phase 1. I want them to know we are here, but not how, many ships we have, or where we are coming from. One of the human destroyers fired a single plasma bolt at the rear cargo ship. The shot was carefully aimed to damage the ship's engines without destroying it completely. The convoy immediately went to alert status, and the escort ships moved to protect the damaged vessel. "Interesting," Admiral Yoon observed. "They form a defensive circle instead of sending scouts to find us. They prefer to protect what they have rather than eliminate the threat." Major Kyung-jin Hwang was 300 light-years away, crouched in the ventilation system of a Confederation military base. His team had been infiltrating alien facilities for months, but tonight was different. Tonight they were not just gathering intelligence. Tonight they were delivering a message. "Team Alpha, report status," he whispered into his communicator. "In position at the power station," came the reply. "Ready to proceed." "Team Beta, ready at the communications center." "Team Gamma, standing by at the command facility." Major Hwang smiled. His teams were positioned at 3 critical points throughout the base, but they were not planning to sabotage anything. Instead, they were going to improve the alien systems and leave behind a very special gift. Execute Operation Renovation. His teams went to work with practiced efficiency. They installed new components in the alien computer systems, upgraded the power distribution networks, and enhanced the communication arrays. To any observer, it would look like the base was receiving beneficial modifications, which, in a way, it was. Dr. Minwoo Seo was aboard Admiral Yoon's flagship, studying the Confederation convoy through powerful telescopes and sensors. As Earth's leading expert in battlefield technology adaptation, his job was to analyze everything the aliens did and figure out how humans could do it better. "Admiral, I am detecting some very interesting energy patterns from their escort ships," he reported. "Explain." "Their weapon systems appear to be modular. They can reconfigure their ships for different types of combat by swapping out equipment modules. Very efficient design. Can we replicate it?" Dr. Seo smiled. "Admiral, I can do better than replicate it. I can improve it. Their modular system is clever, but it has some obvious flaws that we can fix." "How long do you need?" "Give me 6 hours with one of their ships intact, and I will give you a modular weapon system that is twice as effective as theirs." Admiral Yoon nodded. "You will have your ship, Doctor. But first, let us see how they respond to a proper hunt." She turned to her communications officer. "Send a message to the convoy on all frequencies. I want them to know exactly what is happening. To them." The transmission went out in perfect Confederation standard, spoken by a human who had spent 20 years learning alien languages. The message was simple and terrifying. Confederation Convoy 77 Alpha. This is Admiral Neon Yoon of the Earth Defense Force. You are now under human observation. We are studying your defensive patterns, your communication protocols, and your tactical responses. Please continue, operating normally while we complete our research. On the lead escort ship, Captain Velthani received the message with growing horror. The humans were not just attacking them, they were studying them like laboratory specimens. Communications, send a distress signal to Fleet Command, he ordered. Sir, we cannot. Our communications are being jammed. Impossible. Our equipment is more advanced than anything these primitives possess. Sir, the jamming signal appears to be coming from our own communication array. Captain Velthani felt his blue skin grow pale. What do you mean, our own array? The jamming is being broadcast on our own frequency using our own equipment. Someone has modified our systems. 300 light-years away, Major Huang was watching the results of his team's work through a hidden camera they had installed in the base's command center. The alien officers were running around in confusion as their own systems turned against them. Sir, we are receiving communications from multiple sources, but they are all the same message, the alien communications officer reported. What message? It says, "Thank you for the upgrade. We will be using this. Signed, Earth Defense Force Special Operations." The base commander stared at his screens in disbelief. Somehow the humans had not only infiltrated his facility, but had improved it while they were there. His base was now more efficient, more powerful, and more advanced than it had been before, but it was no longer entirely under his control. Sir, the power station is operating at 120% efficiency. The communication array has tripled its range and clarity. The defensive systems are responding faster than ever before. Then what is the problem? All improvements appear to be sending copies of our data to an unknown destination. And sir, there is something else. The humans left a message in our computer system. Show me. The main screen displayed a simple text message written in perfect Confederation standard. Your base is now operating better than it ever has before. You are welcome. We have learned much from studying your systems. We hope you will enjoy the improvements we have made. Please take good care of our work. We may want to upgrade it again someday. Back at the convoy, Admiral Yoon was conducting a masterclass in psychological warfare. Her ships had been harassing the Confederation vessels for 6 hours, never attacking with full force, always staying just out of reach. Admiral, the convoy is requesting permission to surrender, her communications officer reported. Denied. We are not finished studying them yet. Sir, they are also asking why we are doing this to them. Admiral Yoon considered the question carefully. Tell them we are preparing for the next war. The next war? Yes. This current conflict with the Confederation is just the beginning. Soon, the entire galaxy will know that humans are no longer content to stay on one small planet. We will need to understand how every species fights, how they think, and how they can be defeated. Dr. Seo looked up from his instruments with excitement. Admiral, I believe I understand their shield technology now. It is quite elegant, but it has a fatal flaw that I think we can exploit. Show me. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons and kinetic projectiles, but they assume all attacks come from outside the shield perimeter. Watch this. Dr. Seo activated a small device that had been secretly attached to one of the escort ships during the harassment attacks. The device was no larger than a coin, but it contained a miniature teleportation system that could transport small objects directly inside the alien shields. A moment later, a tiny explosive charge materialized. Inside the escort ship's engine room, the explosion was small, just enough to disable the engines without killing the crew. "Brilliant," Admiral Yoon said. "How many of those devices do we have?" "Enough to disable their entire fleet, Admiral. But I suggest we only use a few. We want them to figure out what we did and develop countermeasures. Then we can study their countermeasures and develop countermeasures." "Doctor, you think like a true human warrior. On Earth, the battle for Seoul was entering its final phase. Colonel Tae-hyun Park had allowed the Confederation ground forces to penetrate deep into the city, letting them believe they were winning. Now they were about to learn the truth about human urban warfare. "Sir, all alien units are in position," his tactical officer reported. "They have occupied the government buildings in the city center, just as predicted." "Excellent. Are the civilians clear?" "All civilians evacuated to secure locations, sir. The city center is now a free-fire zone." Colonel Park looked at the display, showing the alien positions. They had done exactly what human planners had expected them to do. They had taken the most important-looking buildings, established command posts in the tallest structures, and created supply lines along the major streets, all of which had been designed to be traps. Signal all units. Execute final lesson protocol. The city of Seoul transformed around the Confederation troops. Buildings they thought were secure revealed hidden passages filled with human soldiers. Streets they thought were safe became channels for automated weapon systems. Even the air itself became dangerous as hidden drones emerged from concealment. But the most terrifying revelation was that the entire city had been designed as a single massive weapon. Every building, every street, every utility tunnel had been planned and constructed to work together in perfect coordination. The aliens found themselves fighting not just human soldiers, but the city itself. "Ground command to all units," Colonel Park broadcast on the Confederation military frequency. "Welcome to Seoul. You are now participating in the final examination of our urban warfare program. Please note that your performance is being recorded for analysis. Thank you for your cooperation in advancing human military science." Admiral Veltaros received the reports from his ground forces with a mixture of horror and fascination. The humans were not just defeating his invasion, they were treating it as an educational opportunity. "Sir, we are receiving a general transmission from the human fleet," his communications officer announced. "Put it through." Admiral Naeun Yoon's image appeared on the screen. She was smiling the same confident smile that seemed to be universal among human military officers. "Admiral Veltaros, this is Admiral Yoon of the Earth Defense Force. I want to thank you for providing us with such excellent training opportunities. Your forces have taught us a great deal about Confederation military capabilities." "What do you want, human?" "We want you to know that the real war is about to begin. Everything that has happened so far has been preparation. We have learned how you fight, how you think, and how you can be defeated. Now we are going to teach the galaxy what humans can do when we stop playing defense." The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Veltaros staring at a blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders, but he had no idea what to tell them. The humans had just announced that everything his forces had endured so far had been a test. And apparently, humanity had just finished studying for the real exam. Researcher Ji-hoon Oh sat in his laboratory deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, surrounded by screens displaying psychological profiles of every Confederation species. For 30 years, he had studied alien behavior patterns, learning how different species thought and reacted under stress. Now, As reports flooded in from the ongoing war, he was beginning to understand something that made his hands shake as he typed his conclusions. "Director, you need to see this immediately," he said into his communicator. Director Ji-won Choi appeared on his screen within minutes. "What have you discovered, Ji-hoon?" "Director, I have been analyzing the Confederation's response patterns to our military actions. The data shows something very disturbing. They are not just losing because we are better fighters. They are losing because they are terrified of us in ways that go beyond normal combat fear." "Explain." Ji-hoon pulled up a series of charts showing alien stress hormone levels, communication patterns, and tactical decisions. "Look at these readings from captured Confederation soldiers. Their fear responses are not normal for a species under attack. These are the biological markers of prey animals being hunted by predators." Director Choi studied the data with growing unease. "Are you saying they see us as predatory animals?" "Worse than that, Director. I believe they recognize us as something. Their species evolved to fear at the deepest genetic level. Every species in the Confederation shares similar reactions to human behavior. Flight responses, stress markers, even their tactical retreats follow patterns of prey trying to escape. Natural predators." Fleet Admiral Sulki Bey was in her command ship beyond the orbit of Mars when she received Ji-hoon's report. She had been wondering why the Confederation forces seemed to make increasingly irrational decisions as the war continued. Now she was beginning to understand. "Communications. Get me Ambassador Lim immediately," she ordered. "Ambassador Do-hyun." Lim appeared on her screen. He was aboard a diplomatic vessel that had been monitoring Confederation communications throughout the war. His job was to analyze the psychological impact of human military actions on alien morale. "Admiral, I assume you have seen Researcher O's findings," he said. "Yes. What is your assessment of the situation?" "Admiral, I believe we have stumbled onto something much larger than a simple territorial war. The Confederation's behavior suggests they know something about humanity that we do not know about ourselves." "What do you mean?" Ambassador Lim paused, choosing his words carefully. "I have been monitoring alien communications for weeks. They keep using the same phrase when discussing human military tactics. Translated, it means, the old hunters have returned." "The old hunters?" "Yes, Admiral. They speak of humanity as if we are something from their ancient history. Something their ancestors encountered long ago and learned to fear." Admiral Bey felt a chill run through her body. "Are you suggesting that humans have had contact with galactic civilization before?" "I am suggesting that the galaxy has had contact with creatures very much like humans. And that contact did not go well for the other species involved." Back in his laboratory, researcher Ji-hoon Oh was digging deeper into the psychological profiles when he made a discovery that changed everything. Hidden in the deepest files of intercepted Confederation communications were references to something called the Predator Wars. "Director Choi, I am sending you classified files from the Confederation's historical archives," he transmitted. "What I have found explains everything about their behavior toward us. The files told a story that no human had ever heard before. Thousands of years ago, when the first galactic civilizations were forming, there had been another species that behaved exactly like humans. They called themselves the Kirak, and they were master warriors who treated combat as both art and science. The Kirak had been physically similar to humans, but with enhanced strength and speed. They were intelligent, adaptable, and completely unafraid of conflict. They fought not for territory or resources, but for the pure challenge of testing themselves against worthy opponents. And they had nearly destroyed every other species in the galaxy. The Kirak Wars lasted for over 1,000 years, Director Choi read from the files. Every attempt at negotiation failed because the Kirak were not interested in conquest in any traditional sense. They wanted to fight, to learn, to grow stronger, through conflict. What happened to them? Jihoon asked. According to these records, they simply vanished one day. All of their ships, all of their colonies, all of their people disappeared without explanation. The surviving species agreed never to speak of them again, hoping they would never return. And now, they think humans are the Kirak returning. Not returning, Jihoon. Evolving. These files suggest that humans display every characteristic the Kirak possessed, but with even greater adaptability and strategic thinking. Admiral Veltaros was in his command chamber when the historical files were delivered to him by his intelligence staff. As he read the ancient records of the Predator Wars, everything about the human conflict began to make terrible sense. They are not just another aggressive species, he said to his senior officers. They are the nightmare our ancestors warned us about, returned in a new form. His tactical officer studied the historical records with growing horror. Sir, the behavioral patterns are identical. The Kirak also treated warfare as a learning experience. They also improved their tactics in real time during combat. They also seemed to enjoy the challenge of fighting superior numbers. And they nearly wiped out every intelligent species in the galaxy, Admiral Veltaros added grimly. Sir, what are your orders? Admiral Veltaros looked at the tactical display showing his remaining fleet. Half of his ships had been destroyed or disabled by human forces that should have been primitive and disorganized. His ground troops were trapped in cities that had turned into three-dimensional mazes of death. Send a priority message to High Command. Tell them we are not fighting a standard conquest war. We are fighting the return of the Predators. On Earth, Ambassador Do-hyun Lim was preparing for the most important broadcast in human history. The discovery of the Predator Wars had changed everything about how humanity understood their place in the galaxy. Are we ready for the galactic transmission? He asked his technical team. Yes, sir. Every species in the Confederation will receive this message simultaneously. Ambassador Lim looked into the camera that would carry his words to billions of alien beings across hundreds of worlds. He had spent his entire career studying alien psychology, learning how to communicate with species that thought in completely different ways than humans. Now he would use that knowledge to deliver a message that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. People of the Galactic Confederation, he began, speaking in perfect universal standard. This is Ambassador Do-hyun Lim of the Human Republic. We know that you have discovered the historical records of the Kirak, whom you call the Old Predators. We know that you believe humanity is the return of the species that once threatened all galactic civilization. We know that your fear of us goes deeper than simple military concern. You are afraid that we will do to you what the Kirak did to your ancestors. You are correct to be afraid. The statement sent shockwaves through every Confederation world. In command centers across the galaxy, alien leaders watched in stunned silence as the human ambassador continued. Humanity is indeed everything the Kirak were, and more. We are predators who have learned to hunt on a galactic scale. We are warriors who treat combat as the highest form of art and science. We are adaptable, relentless, and completely unafraid of any challenge you can present. But there is one crucial difference between humanity and the Kirak that your histories do not record. Ambassador Lim paused, letting his words sink in before delivering the most important message in galactic history. The Kirak fought because they could not imagine any other way to live. Humanity fights because we choose to fight. And because we choose to fight, we can also choose not to fight. The war you declared on Earth was a test. Not a test of our military capability, which you now understand is overwhelming. It was a test of our character. You needed to know if humanity would use our predatory nature to destroy or to protect. The Kirek disappeared because they could. Not control their nature. They fought until there was nothing left to fight, and then they destroyed themselves. Humanity has learned to control our predatory instincts. We fight when we must, but we stop when we choose. Your invasion of Earth has failed, but you have not been destroyed. Your fleets have been defeated, but your crews have been captured alive. Your worlds have been threatened, but they have not been burned. This is the difference between the old predators and the new guardians. Humanity offers the Galactic Confederation a choice. You can continue this war and learn why every species in the galaxy once lived in terror of creatures like us. Or you can accept us as the protectors your ancestors wished the Kirek could have become. We are predators, yes, but we are predators who have chosen to hunt only those who threaten the innocent. We are warriors who have decided to fight only to defend the peaceful. We are the answer to the question your species have been asking for thousands of years. What if the predators had been on our side? The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. On every Confederation world, alien leaders stared at their screens, trying to process what they had just heard. Humanity was offering to become the galaxy's guardians. The predators were volunteering to be protectors. Admiral Veltaros received the response from High Command within hours. The message was brief and unprecedented in Confederation history. All Confederation forces are ordered to cease hostilities immediately. Begin negotiations for formal surrender and alliance terms. Priority message ends. For the first time in galactic history, an entire interstellar government had surrendered not because they were defeated, but because they realized they wanted to be on the same side as their conquerors. Ambassador Lim smiled as he watched the Confederation surrender messages flooding Earth's communication networks. The war was over, but humanity's real work was just beginning. The galaxy had spent thousands of years living in fear of predators returning. Now they would learn what it felt like to have predators watching over them instead. President Chae Young-shin stood in the Great Assembly Hall of the United Nations building in New York, looking out at the most unusual gathering in human history. Seated before her were not just human diplomats and military leaders, but representatives from 47 different alien species. 3 months had passed since the Confederation's surrender, and the galaxy was still adjusting to its new reality. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings, President Shin began, speaking into a translation device that would convert her words into dozens of alien languages simultaneously. We gather today to formally establish the Galactic Protection Compact. In Yalder, the front row, Admiral Veltaros sat next to Admiral Nayeon Yoon. The former enemies had spent weeks working together to develop new joint military protocols. The alien commander had initially been suspicious of human intentions, but he was gradually learning to trust his former opponents. Admiral Yoon, he said quietly, your people continue to surprise me. When we surrendered, I expected to be treated as prisoners of war. Admiral Veltaros, she replied with a smile. Humans have a saying, we judge people not by their mistakes, but by how they handle the consequences of those mistakes. You declared war on us because you thought we were a threat to galactic peace. When you learned the truth, you had the wisdom to choose cooperation over continued conflict. Director Kang Min-yu was in the back of the hall, coordinating the massive logistical effort required to integrate human and alien technologies. As head of the new Human Galactic Integration Council, his job was to figure out how two completely different approaches to civilization could work together. "Director Yu, we have a problem," his assistant whispered, handing him a datapad. "What now?" "The Threnody Hive ships are having difficulty understanding human chain of command structures. They keep trying to find our central controlling mind." Director Yu sighed. This was the kind of problem he dealt with every day. Alien species that thought in terms of collective consciousness could not understand how humans could coordinate complex operations without a single leader making all decisions. Schedule a meeting with their delegation. We will explain again how human teams can work together without anyone being in complete control of everyone else. Yes, sir. Also, the Zakari energy beings are asking if they can help upgrade our power systems. Tell them yes, but remind them that we want to understand how the upgrades work. We do not just want better technology, we want to learn how to build better technology ourselves. This was the key to human integration with galactic civilization. Other species were content to receive advanced technology as gifts. Humans wanted to understand how everything worked so they could improve it themselves. President Shin continued her address to the assembly. The Protection Compact is based on a simple principle. Every species has strengths and weaknesses. Every civilization has knowledge and blind spots. By working together, we become stronger than any of us could be alone. She gestured to a large display screen that showed the current state of the galaxy. For the first time in recorded history, there are no active military conflicts between member species. Trade routes are secure. Scientific research is being shared freely, and exploration missions are pushing into regions of space that were too dangerous for any single species to investigate alone. What the display did not show was the reason for this unprecedented peace. Human warships patrolling every major space lane, human marines stationed on disputed border worlds, and human intelligence services monitoring every potential source of conflict. The galaxy was at peace because humanity had made it clear that breaking that peace would result in immediate and overwhelming response from the species that had once been called the new predators. In orbit around Earth, the massive space station Unity served as the headquarters for the joint human-alien fleet. Captain Soyoung Han walked through corridors where human soldiers worked alongside Velkari technicians, Threnody engineers, and Zakari energy specialists. "Captain Han, we have a situation in Sector 7, her communications officer reported. "What kind of situation?" "Pirate attacks on civilian shipping. The local planetary government has requested assistance." Captain Han nodded. This was exactly the kind of problem the Protection Compact had been designed to handle. "Prepare Squadron 5 for immediate departure. Mixed human-alien crews." "Yes, ma'am." "Should we inform the pirates that we are coming?" "No. Let them discover what happens when someone threatens innocent people under our protection." 6 hours later, Squadron 5 emerged from hyperspace near the pirate base. The criminal fleet was hidden inside an asteroid field, thinking they were safe from government forces. They were not prepared for human tactical thinking combined with alien technology. "This is Captain Han of the Protection Fleet," she broadcast to the pirates. "You have been attacking civilian ships in violation of galactic law. Surrender immediately." The pirate leader responded with threats and insults, as pirates usually did. He commanded 15 heavily armed ships and thought he could defeat a squadron of only 8 vessels. He had not considered that those 8 ships were crewed by the species that had defeated the entire Confederation military, working in partnership with aliens who understood the local region better than any human ever could. The battle lasted exactly 12 minutes. When it was over, the pirate fleet was disabled but intact, the crews were captured alive, and the stolen cargo was ready to be returned to its rightful owners. Most importantly, word of the victory would spread throughout the criminal networks of the galaxy. Pirates, smugglers, and other lawbreakers were learning that the protection fleet did not negotiate with people who preyed on the innocent. Back on Earth, Ambassador Do-Hyun Lim was meeting with a delegation of species that had not yet joined the Protection Compact. These were the older civilizations, the ones that remembered the Kirak Wars, and were still afraid of humanity despite all evidence that humans were different from the ancient predators. Ambassador Lim, the lead delegate said, "We appreciate what humanity has accomplished in bringing peace to the Confederation territories. But we must ask, what guarantee do we have that humans will not eventually turn their predatory nature against us?" Ambassador Lim had been expecting this question. "Honored delegate, I understand your concerns. Your species survived the Kiraks. Wars by hiding and avoiding contact with predatory races. But hiding is no longer an option in the modern galaxy." He activated a holographic display showing the current state of galactic civilization. "Look at the trade routes, the exploration, missions, the scientific collaborations. The galaxy is more connected now than it has ever been. Isolation is no longer possible. But what if humanity becomes like the Kirak? Then you will need allies who can stand against us," Ambassador Lim replied honestly. "The best way to ensure that humanity remains committed to protection rather than conquest is to surround us with species who can work with us when we are right and oppose us when we are wrong." The delegate considered this carefully. "You are saying that the best defense against human predators is human partners?" "I am saying that the best defense against any predatory species is a galaxy full of species who refuse to be victims. Humanity can teach you to defend yourselves not just against us, but against any threat that might arise." This was the genius of the Protection Compact. Humanity was not just offering to defend other species. They were offering to teach other species how to defend themselves. Instead of creating dependency, humans were building capability. Director Kang Min-yu received the daily report from the Integration Council with satisfaction. Every day brought new successes in combining human and alien approaches to technology, science, and social organization. "Sir, the Joint Research Station at Alpha Centauri has made a breakthrough in faster-than-light communication," his assistant reported. "Excellent. What did they discover?" By combining human adaptive engineering with Zakari energy manipulation and Threnody collective processing, they have created a communication system that can send messages across the galaxy instantly. "Any military applications?" "Yes, sir. Fleet coordination across multiple star systems is now possible in real time." Director Yu smiled. This was exactly what humanity had hoped for when they offered alliance instead of conquest. Working with alien species was making humans stronger, smarter, and more capable than they had ever been alone. But more importantly, it was making every species in the galaxy stronger as well. President Shin concluded her address to the Galactic Assembly with words that would be remembered for centuries to come. 3 months ago, the Confederation declared war on Earth, expecting us to surrender or die. Instead, you discovered that humanity is indeed the return of the ancient predators, but you also discovered something that your ancestors never knew about the original Kirak. Predators are not inherently evil. They are simply creatures shaped by evolution to be very good at survival and conflict. The tragedy of the Kirak was that they never learned to direct their predatory nature toward constructive purposes. Humanity has learned that lesson. We are predators, yes, but we are predators who have chosen to hunt only those who threaten the innocent. We are warriors who have decided to fight only to defend the peaceful. We are the guardians your ancestors wished the Kirak could have become. The galaxy spent thousands of years living in fear of creatures like us returning. Today, that fear ends. Not because the predators are gone, but because the predators have chosen to stand watch over those who cannot stand watch for themselves. Welcome to the new galactic order. We will take first watch. As the assembly erupted in applause from dozens of different species, President Shin looked out at the audience and saw something that filled her with hope. Human children were playing with alien youngsters in the observer galleries. Human scientists were excitedly discussing research projects with alien colleagues. Human military officers were working side by side with former enemies who had become trusted allies. The galaxy had declared war on Earth, expecting humanity to be conquered or destroyed. Instead, they had gained the guardians they never knew they needed, and in the depths of space, human warships continued their patrols, watching for threats, ready to respond to any danger that might threaten the peace they had helped to create. The predators were keeping watch, and the galaxy could finally sleep safely.